This is John. He wants to buy a house for 500,000 rand, but no one wants to give him a bond. This is Peter. He's got 500,000 rand, but is currently not getting the best interest on his money. Luckily for them, Jane knows of a company where John can get a bond for 500,000 rand, and Peter can get an amazing 11% interest per year, paid monthly, with little or no risk at all. This company is Bonder Property. So how does Bonder Property work? Well, it's easy. Bonder Property combines these two parties in a very unique way to enable John to get his bond and Peter to get an amazing 11% per year on his money with more security than he can dream of. Here's how the bond plan works. Bonder Property firstly register a Pty Limited for both Peter and John. Let's call it John Pty Limited and Peter Pty Limited, for example. Therefore, John Pty Limited becomes the borrower and Peter Pty Limited the lender. Peter transfers his money into Peter Pty Limited, which enables Peter Pty Limited to lend money to John Pty Limited. And this is where the magic happens. There are 4 layers of security, sureties and guarantees built into our system to protect Peter Pty Limited. John Pty Limited, under guidance of Bonder Property, now buys a house for 500,000 rand and gives Peter Pty Limited a bond over the property. To protect the shares in John Pty Limited, a trust is created for John. Let's call it John's Family Trust. This also means that if anything happens to John financially, no one can touch the shares or the property. The trust is now the owner of the shares, and therefore the only shareholder in John's Pty Limited. It's important to note that the company and trust belongs to John, but are different entities. John is also the creator, trustee, and he and his family are the beneficiaries of the trust. John can now give Peter Pty Limited a second layer of surety, in the form of the shares of John Pty Limited, which is held in the trust. John Pty Limited will cede the shares of John Pty Limited to Peter Pty Limited, so that in the event of John Pty Limited not fulfilling its obligations in terms of servicing his bond as agreed, Peter Pty Limited can then take possession of the shares. The effect of this is that Peter Pty Limited will then be in control of John Pty Limited, and therefore directly in control of the property. Because the property is not in John's personal name, it doesn't need to be auctioned off to remove it from John's name. John Pty Limited needs to pay a monthly amount of 5,000 rand towards the bond. To cover this expenditure, the company needs an income. The income will come from a rental agreement that John will sign in his personal capacity with the company John Pty Limited, so he will be renting from his own company. Because of the rental agreement, John Pty Limited now becomes a landlord. This now opens the door for yet another layer of guarantee, which is rental insurance. John Pty Limited is now a landlord, and that enables him to take out rental insurance that will protect Peter Pty Limited if John doesn't make his rental payments. The rental insurance will guarantee the rental payments for 6 months, and they also pay for the eviction orders if needed. This rental agreement is also ceded to Peter Pty Limited, so that if John doesn't pay the monthly rent, the rental insurance payment will be paid directly to Peter Pty Limited and not to John Pty Limited, which is the landlord. The 4th layer of security is in the form of tenant insurance. Tenant insurance will pay for any damages made to the property by John. Let's just recap. John gets a bond and pays 12% interest. Peter gets an amazing 11% interest on his money with 4 layers of security. A bond of 500,000 rand is over the property. Peter holds the shares as surety. He gets a rental insurance guarantee, a tenant insurance guarantee, and best of all, the whole process is managed and administered by Bonder Property. Call Bonder Property today to take advantage of this amazing opportunity.